everyone, welcome to Kèna. My name is Hawa Bari, and for today's episode, I'm so happy to welcome Lucy Yurek. Hi, Lucy.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Especially well because I'm in Guinea this week.
Yeah, welcome back to Guinea. Lucy, could we please start with a very basic introduction? If you could share your name, your job title, and also where are you from originally?
Sure. So as you said, I'm Lucy Yurek. I am the Group Head of Communications at Rio Tinto. And I'm originally from a small town in the middle of the UK called Nottingham, which is where the mythical character Robin Hood is from.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Lucy, you've had a very interesting and a very rich career in communications. When you started out, what was it about communication that attracted you in particular?
So I think at its most basic, I love talking. And I have ever since I was a little kid. So that was always on my school reports. Lucy talks too much. Lucy needs to listen more. So look, I love talking and I love connecting. So I think it's quite an obvious route there. But I think more than that, as I started to understand more about the world of communications and public relations, it was really clear to me actually that you can get up every day and you can use storytelling to connect with people and to make a difference and to solve problems. And actually for me, that's pure magic really, because it's all the things that I love doing. And the longer I've been in communications, the more I've realized that actually many a problem can be solved with good communication, and many an opportunity can be unlocked with great communication as well.
I love that you love talking because this interview is all about that. I will ask you many questions.
Let's go.
So you joined Rio Tinto in 2022.
That's right.
After 13 years in the finance sector. Mm-hmm. What propelled you to make this shift in the mining sector? And I want to know also why is Rio Tinto specifically?
So great questions. I'll take the mining sector one first. I think having spent 13 years, as you said, banking and supporting different parts of a really large international financial organization, I was very clear that there were a few things that were really important to me in my next role. I wanted to make sure that I was, again, working in a very international organization. I love the diversity, the constant learning and growth that comes with that. And also always just the opportunity to operate in areas actually where there's a little bit of discomfort for me personally, where I might not be naturally at home. So I was really looking for that again. I wanted to be in a sector that mattered. So I wanted to be working for an organization that was doing something that really, really meant a lot to the societies that it was operating in. And the third thing was that I wanted to be doing something that was really closely linked to the energy transition. So I have a couple of young children, and when I really sat back and thought about where I want to be for the next 10 years, which, let's be honest, is probably the most important 10 years in human history in some ways in terms of this major transition that we need to make from a climate perspective, I wanted to be close to the action. So I didn't want to be sitting on the sidelines in an organization that was perhaps thinking about climate change. I wanted to be in an organization that was having to make real and tangible changes at every level of its business in order to contribute. Wonderful. And when I look at mining, right, it ticks all those three boxes. So for me, as I was looking at different industries where I could continue to hone my craft of communications, mining was right up there. And why Rio? Well, back in 2022, I think Rio was at a really interesting point in its history. And there were two things. One, they had started to take a real leadership position in terms of our decarbonisation targets. And the second was that Rio had started to take some really bold steps at looking at its culture. And those two things were places where I felt I could add value, I could have impact, but also I could learn. So mining was an obvious choice, and then shortly followed, Rio was a very obvious choice.
So I want to know, what was your first impression of Rio Tinto when you started?
Ooh, that's a great question. So some things that I think a lot of people at Rio would tell you, it's enormous and it's incredibly geographically diverse. I think the second thing was how many smart people we have. So from all different walks of life, from all different technical disciplines, but there are truly some of the best people, both technically and in terms of values, I would say, that I've ever come across in my professional life. So that keeps you on your toes, right? It makes you want to be better as an individual. And then I think the other observation was just the scale of the opportunity that we have at Rio. So we're in this moment in time where we are needed for the energy transition in terms of what we supply, but we're also really challenged in terms of our own business model and decarbonising that. And that is quite a special moment on which to kind of meet Rio as an organisation. So it really feels like we're in the thick of it, we're navigating through a really challenging time, but we're doing that with real leadership. So the opportunity, I think, is the third thing I'd say.
I mean, for me, it's a little bit different because I didn't know much about Rio Tinto, so I didn't know everything that you just explained. I just saw it as this huge and complex and scary mining company. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, it didn't take long for me to realize how human-centered the company is, and it's really here that I understood the importance of physical safety, but mostly psychological safety as well. And speaking of psychological safety, you are one of the nominees of the 2024, I'll say it, 2024 Kindness and Leadership 15 Leading Lights list.
It's a mouthful.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
How do you maintain kindness on a daily basis in such a high-pressure professional environment?
Thank you for asking that question. I have reflected on this since I found out that I'd been put on the list. I will admit, when I found that out, I actually felt not embarrassed, but a little bit taken aback, and I really reflected on why I'd been nominated for that list. Look, I think kindness in a professional environment is the same as kindness in your home life with your friends and family. And for me, it's all about respect and extending respect to the next person as much as you would want it extended to yourself. And it's also about fairness. So it's about making sure that you are being fair in how you move through life, in how you make decisions, and taking accountability as well for your own kind of actions. So for me, it's core to who I am as a human, who I want my children to be as they grow up. And I think actually that kindness in the workplace, particularly respect and fairness, they make it better for everybody. So we've all got to work at that. The thing I will say is no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. And kindness is a daily habit that you have to build. And, you have to hold yourself to account when you're not kind as well. And that was the thing that I really reflected on, that I don't always meet my own bar for how kind I need to be in the workplace. And actually, it's just about, if you're not getting it right, reflecting on that and seeing what you could do better next time.
I think it's such an important message, and it has to be talked about pretty more often, right? Because I believe that when you listen with empathy, you build trust. And when you build trust, you create those supportive environment where people feel comfortable to share their ideas.
100%.
And you're not only kind, you're also a great proponent for the sustainability journey, which Rio Tinto is strongly committed to. How do you think Simandou sits within that decarbonization strategy, and why do you think it is so important that we put it front and center alongside our production targets?
Yeah, so I think you put it well. Simandou is right at the heart of that strategy. I think Rio is very much an organisation that thinks long term and that wants to build a portfolio of assets that really reflect the materials that the world needs, not just now, but into the future. And Simandou, and particularly the ore grade that we see, is so high that actually it is really compatible, as you know, with making lower carbon steel. And so for us, that is a future pathway. For the world, that is a future pathway. But I think just as important as what we're taking from the ground is how we're doing that, right? So it's not just about building the portfolio for the future. It's also about making sure that the way that we're executing on major projects is as strong as it can be from an ESG perspective in the round, right? So that decarb bit is one part of the E, the S, and the G, but we've also really got to be thinking about the broader environmental impact, the social impact. And I think Simandou is an amazing opportunity for us to really create a new blueprint for what good looks like in that space.
So I love that you said that, because indeed I feel like, and I'm really proud to work on the Simandou project, because it plays such a huge role in bridging the gap between communities' needs, but also Rio Tinto's goals. So Simandou, as we said, is a major project that presents both opportunities but also challenges. In your view, in terms of communication, what would be the main challenge for a project unique like Simandou?
It's a big question, isn't it?
It is.
And it would be very difficult to boil that down, I think. And part of the reason actually why I'm here with you and the team this week is to really learn more. From my perspective, and it's maybe stating the obvious, but the scale of the project is so enormous, just in terms of the geographical footprint and the different types of locations and environments that we'll be operating in. So that always presents a communications challenge because you've got real diversity of these kind of locations and environments, and you've got them spread across a big, wide geography. The second piece, I think, is that actually that means that the manner in which we reach people and we communicate with them is really quite different to in some of our other jurisdictions that we operate in. So again, we've got to not assume that we know how to do things, and actually we've just got to listen, we've got to learn, we've got to experiment and be okay with trying things that might not work and then adjusting course. And then the other thing I would say is that with such a huge ambition, which clearly this project has, and with such potential to deliver real benefits for Guinea as a country and the people of Guinea, there's a real risk, of course, that expectations are so high that we will never be able to deliver to those expectations. So from a communications perspective, that means we've got to be really clear about what we want to deliver, and then we've got to bring people with us on the journey about what's going well, but also what might not be going as well as we'd hoped. So managing that expectation gap, I think, is the one really big thing that I'm thinking a lot about at the moment.
It's absolutely right, and it's a large-scale project. We have over 30 different nationalities, different languages, so it's also how to communicate in a universal way where everybody understands what's going on, good or bad, and kind of commit and collaborate with Rio Tinto on this project as well. Are there specific initiatives or stories that you read about Simandou which touch you or stand out in particular that you want to share with us today?
I wouldn't say there's one particular one that stands out, but actually what really does stand out is how you are using storytelling here to really bring people on the journey. And the fact that actually at the core of all those stories are people, right? So Simandou is obviously a big project. It's a technical project. It's got a huge amount of infrastructure that needs to be built and technical problems that need to be solved. But at its heart, it's people doing really amazing work, trying to deliver something ultimately again for people. So bringing those stories to life in a really human way, I think is working really nicely. And when I look through, the social media content about the project, that's really what stands out to me, that we're not talking about it as a project and the nuts and bolts of what we've got to build. We're talking about the people behind that. And that's really powerful.
I'm glad that you point that out. It's kind of difficult sometimes to explain in an accessible language technical things, mining things, and put people that are in the field in front of the scene. But I think we're doing not too bad. So I'm pretty proud of our team. So we recently just set up a new women committee called Simandou Mosolu, which literally translates as the women of Simandou. What would be your advice for this newly formed committee in terms of how best they can promote the development of women in the mining sector and also have a sustainable impact?
So I'm meeting them a little bit later this week, which I'm excited about, and I'm going to ask them that exact question because actually I'm sure they'll have a lot of ideas and feedback for me as well. I think in terms of the limited advice that I could offer them as they start up, it would be two simple things. The first would be a phrase actually that one of your colleagues used this morning when we were meeting over coffee and pastries. It's be the change that you want to see. So I think the best thing that any woman in the workforce can do is to role model the very best of what it is, to have impact, and to do that in the right way and in a values-led way. So firstly, role model the female leadership that you want to see. The second piece is actually just, don't be quiet, be noisy and ask for things, right? If you're setting up a committee and you really want to have a meaningful and sustainable, as you said, impact, I think you need to make sure that you have the tools to do that, right? So you have the access to the people you need, you have the resources that you need. So be noisy, ask for it, don't wait to be invited, kind of get out there and be a little bit pushy, in the right way, of course, but a little bit pushy.
I love that, and I can't wait for you to meet them. I think we all need this boost, coming from another woman as well. And are you a member of the Women in Mining UK as well?
I am, and actually I was on a panel for them a couple of weeks ago on the culture journey that Rio Tinto has been on. I met some incredible women, head of culture Anglo-American, who was also sharing her experiences of their culture journey as well. And these forums are just so good for sharing ideas, stealing ideas sometimes as well, right? And just kind of giving yourself a boost and learning more about the industry that we all call home.
You're clearly passionate about communication. I love that you love to talk. I love that you share your ideas. I love it. But I'm still curious to know, and I'm pretty sure the audience wants to know, if not communication, do you think you would pick another career, and which one would be?
So there have been a couple of points in my career where I've paused and I've really challenged myself. Do I want to be here, or is there something that I now want to go and do? Because actually I think a lot of people now have the opportunity to do multiple careers within one lifetime, right? And you meet people who do diversify at various points. I always come back to the fact that I'm very lucky that I really enjoy my job, and actually I'm still learning. So for me, it's absolutely where I want to be. If you were to ask me what I dreamed of as a little girl and what I thought I'd be, I thought that I would be a professional violin player because I play the violin. I used to love to play in orchestras. I was never quite good enough to go professional, but that would probably be my other one. But the things that those two things have in common, actually, I've realized, is that when you're in an orchestra, as a musician, it's not really about you, it's about the magic that you can create with others. And actually, that's not dissimilar to what we're doing here. There's a lot of commonality there.
My last question is one of my favorite because I love hearing the different responses. So I want to ask you, if you could have one wish, only one, for the future of the Simandou project, what would that be?
If it's only one, it has to be big and audacious. So my wish, and I used this word earlier, is that together you all create a true blueprint for what a mega mining project should look like in the year 2025, when actually we've learned so much over the years about the how, and how the how is just as important as the what. So you will create a new blueprint here that will be followed by thousands to come in multiple different countries, and that the true impact and potential of Simandou will be unlocked.
I love that, and I think it's the perfect way to end this interview. Thank you so much, Lucy. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I wish you the best in everything.
Thank you so much, and you too.
Thank you.